Kentucky, this is Mary Jo Perino. Tonight, the calls for justice for Breonna Taylor continue. UK's Mitch Barnhart talks about navigating the COVID-19 era, and Serena and Venus face off in Nicholasville. All that and more is next on Hey Kentucky. Welcome into Hey Kentucky with LEX 18 Sports Director Keith Farmer. And Keith, like, as a sports guy and a sports girl, Venus and Serena playing, 15 minutes from my house is pretty awesome.
You know what? It's like less than that from mine. And I was actually over there yesterday at a doctor's office right across the road, and I just thought so much about sneaking over there trying to catch some action. I'd love to have seen that match today.
Man, so cool. We'll get to that in a second. But first, today marked exactly 5 months since Breonna Taylor was shot and killed by Louisville police. To recognize the date, the person who started the Justice for Breonna Taylor petition has joined with Change.org to launch a major ad campaign calling on Kentucky lawmakers to act. The petition currently has almost 11 million signatures, which is the second largest in Change.org history. Meanwhile, attorneys for Taylor's family held a news conference to discuss meetings they had with both Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron and Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher. We also heard from Breonna's aunt.
As we reflect this 150 days since Breonna was murdered, we have gotten a lot accomplished, and I'm not taking away from that, but there's still a lot to be done. And I expect this city to step up. It's time. We're tired.
A spokeswoman for the Attorney General says his office will determine whether the officers involved will face charges in Taylor's death. Last week, he said they were still waiting on ballistic evidence. The case has prompted activists to renew their calls for the cancellation of the Kentucky Derby due to increased racial tensions. Keith, I still don't think the Derby's going to get canceled for this or any other reason. But 5 months feels like a really long time.
I know, and I really don't know how long it takes for investigations, internal investigations and such, and I know they want to get it right, but I feel like this should have jumped to the front of the line and should have really been something because of all the reaction across the country that this has also had. It just seems like something could have been done. As far as Kentucky Derby goes, I think we're going to see some people show up for that, to talk about it, to bring up this awareness if the Kentucky Derby does go on.
Yeah, I can imagine there will be several there, dozens or hundreds, who knows how many. Turning to the pandemic now, starting the school year online will require some adjusting for a lot of Kentucky families, like Sheila Thomas's. She has a full-time job, ministry, and 7 children ages 8 to 17, all still in school. Thomas and her husband are also pastors of a local church. Now she's a mom, teacher, and already facing one pressing issue before her first class. Her 7 kids are sharing a single Chromebook for their schoolwork. But families are getting creative help from schools like drive-through registration events.
We are giving out school supplies today, some of their notebooks as well, just to make sure that they're prepared and feel comfortable doing NTI 2.0.
As we mentioned last night, not all schools are following the governor's recommendation to delay in-class learning until September 28th. And Keith, I can only speak for Fayette County, really, but I think everyone here that needs one is going to get a Chromebook. I hope this family gets some more Chromebooks.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why only one for them. I do know I've heard a shortage in getting those out, but I think for those schools that were prepared, I think they've got them ready to go, like you said, here in Fayette County. So I certainly hope that 7 people don't have to share the one there.
Yeah, I mean, that's impossible. That's not going to happen.
Not happening.
No. All right. Let's turn to sports. As uncertainty remains for the 2020 college football season, NCAA leaders are adamant that basketball season will be played. And so is the man in charge of UK Athletics. We've talked about the optimism expressed by NCAA Senior Vice President of Basketball Dan Gavitt regarding an on-time start for college hoops. And this week, Kentucky AD Mitch Barnhart chimed in.
We're going to find a way to play a championship, and we're going to get through this thing, and it may look a little different. To Dan's point, it might be a place where we're bringing folks together. It might be still in the same format. I hope we can go and do what we've done, and we have all the original sites, and we're marching our way through March Madness and get to a Final Four. It could look very different. But we've watched the bubbles, as you said, Andy. We've watched the bubbles, and we've said, that's working and that's not working. And to Dan's point, we will have more information and more time.
While the NCAA continues to come up with ideas and backup plans, the hope is to play the season as planned with some fans in attendance. If that can't be done, they'll come up with about 4 or 5 contingencies, with one being a bubble-like situation. It works for the NBA, Keith, because there's only 22 teams in that bubble. There's over 300 college basketball teams, so that's kind of tricky. And I do want to mention that the director of the CDC did say today that we are on the cusp of having the worst fall in history of this country, health-wise, with the flu and the coronavirus. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, 2020, go away. I just think, they're looking at this sport in particular because that's where it all began. I mean, it was right at the end of the basketball season. So everybody wanted that not to happen. And baseball and softball was wiped out. So everybody wanted that not to happen to football, and we've seen it happen a lot of places. Now you're coming back around to basketball again, and you just don't want to see it happen again to start another year or another season, I guess I should say, in basketball.
Absolutely. All right, the eyes of the tennis world remain fixed on Central Kentucky as fans got a double dose of stardom during a match between Serena and Venus Williams today. Competing against each other for the 31st time, Serena took down her slightly older sister in 3 sets, 2 hours and 20 minutes of play at the Top Seed Open in Nicholasville. For the second match in a row, Serena had to come from a set down, raising her level in set 2 and advancing to the quarterfinal. Keith, this was one of the better matches between Serena and Venus that I've seen. This was tight. This was back and forth. They're 39 and 40, which to us is young. But to be as good as they are still, it's incredible.
It is, and they just continue to meet up again in tournaments or be in draws right where they have that chance. It could have been the last time because we keep hearing Venus could be retiring soon. But it was so cool. There was a post that I retweeted where there was a fan or somebody that was there. Obviously, fans weren't allowed in, but somebody was looking underneath like this much space that was right there where you could look underneath and watch that. It was like an old baseball kind of looking underneath and just catching some of the action between the two sisters.
That would be, I would do it. I would do that. All right, now to our weekly, it wasn't me, but I would. Our weekly feature on Hey Kentucky, What's the Beef? Sponsored by the Kentucky Beef Council. First up, a Louisville attorney has filed a lawsuit against the LMPD over enforcement changes put into place Sunday night for protest marches and caravans. The suit seeks injunctive relief against the department and Metro government, claiming the new enforcement put in place is unlawful and unconstitutional. Meanwhile, several downtown Louisville businesses have filed a lawsuit against the city and county over looting damage back in May. The suit claims Mayor Greg Fisher gave officers a stand-down order, which they say essentially allowed the looters to steal and damage what they wanted without repercussions. And that's tonight's edition of What's the Beef? Up next on Hey Kentucky, I'll talk with John Clay of the Lexington Herald-Leader. The renowned sports writer will weigh in on the wild state of college football as we try to determine what, if anything, the season will look like in the COVID era. That's next.